Hey, what's up, guys? It's Mugen Lord here, and today I want to talk about Sony and Bungie Studios because apparently Bungie Studios had experienced an unexpected massive layoff down at the studio, which has the community scratching their heads wondering what the hell is going on, especially after Sony had acquired the studio, especially for their unique talents and their handling of live services such as the Destiny IP. So what is going on? So before we dive into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, that notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive right into the matters of this. This is crazy. I said this a couple months ago when we was going through the whole Activision, Microsoft, and the Blizzard acquisition that finally went through. I was calling this console war arc because there's a lot of, people on both ends of the console war, Sony and Microsoft, talking about acquiring, fighting over acquiring studios and everything. And I had called this the acquisition wars arc because this is what's going on right now. And Sony pretty much, and no one expected it, they had acquired Bungie Studios. So now Sony pretty much owns the Destiny IP, and they more specifically wanted to acquire a Bungie Studios for the simple fact is because of their success of live service games such as Destiny 2. They pretty much want Bungie to help them create live service games moving forward into the future and to get their expertise, have pretty much available access to their resources and tools and how they approach live service games. But now that they have got the studio, Destiny 2 has been experiencing a lot of backlash from the community, how they handle microtransactions and also how they handle, the expansions moving forward in Destiny 2. So things are not really looking good for the studio. But more importantly, now they've been hit with massive layoffs, which we're going to go through some of the details here in the article. And we're also going to talk about their other IP that everybody's scratching their head and wondering what's the mystery behind Marathon, which is another big IP that they're working on. And from the details that we have, this is something that they're banking on to move forward, especially as live service and as their next biggest franchise. So we're going to dive right into this article, this acquisition war, and how these studios is just falling apart, especially now that Microsoft has also got Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 3 haven't been doing too good, but we'll talk about that in a separate video. So as we got here on Forbes, it says Destiny 2 developer Bungie hit with unexpected undue layoffs. So it says while Sony paid $3.7 billion for Bungie, including $1.2 billion for staff retention, the developer has now laid off a number of employees on Monday, including some of its most forward-facing team members. While the totals are not yet known, which there is an update which we'll talk about in another article, many Bungie employees have posted that they have been laid off from the company, including a longtime social media lead and two of Destiny's community managers. Reports are these cuts are mostly focused in publishing, but there are reports that they may be some in the engineering as well. Former community manager DMG, who was harassed in real life by a player, resulting in a Bungie lawsuit against the offender. Continued echoes of poor decisions from poor management led to moments like this. So this is getting crazy, man. So it says while Destiny has always had its ups and downs as a series, this past year with the release of Lightfall marked a low point, with the expansion being one of the game's worst received ever. Now I'm going to be honest with you guys. I only played a little bit of Destiny 2, and I played a little bit of Destiny 1. Like I said, I'm not really a first-person shooter guy. I'm not really a looter shooter as well. But my brothers, Keel Lancer and DX Strike, these guys played Destiny faithfully. They ate and slept like Destiny. And the thing is, everybody had pretty much said that Destiny was like the golden standard. Besides, your Warframes and stuff like that. But more so for consoles, a lot of people will always say Destiny was the golden standard to how to handle live service games. Most people will always hold Destiny to such high acclaim. And the fact is that hearing that Destiny 2 is pretty much essentially just falling apart, and now you got Lightfall that's not being received really well, is really have me nervous is hearing about this, because I'm always hearing positive things about Destiny, but to hear something like this really got me nervous, and I don't even play Destiny. So Bungie's about to wrap up a major Destiny 2 saga in the coming months with the release of its Final Shape expansion. But things are somewhat nebulous after that, as Destiny 2 development continues in live service format with no word about a true sequel on the way. So that's another thing. I don't, since Destiny 2 is a live service, to me I see it more like a light MMO. So I don't, like, how long does fans expect like Destiny to run? Like people really want to move on to a Destiny 3? I'm not too sure about that. So in the conversations, definitely let me know about that. How long do you like the Destiny to run before you want a sequel? Because to me, these games seem like MMO lights that you can run for a very, very long time. So meanwhile, Bungie has revealed Marathon is its upcoming extraction shooter and a more lighthearted multiplayer game, current codename Gummy Bears. But at least Marathon is still very long ways out in a hyper competitive shooter landscape. Man, no lie. When it comes to competitive shooters or just shooters in general, man, is a whole lot of them. It's so oversaturated. It's to the point is where how can players invest in so many of them, especially if you're making a lot of them live service. So this is a big gamble, especially with Marathon, which people never really heard of. But people never heard of Destiny, but Destiny shot off and became a success. But will Marathon be something that people want, since it's not a traditional type of Bungie type of game? This is going more of an extraction shooter than what they traditionally create. Destiny 2 has been the profit driver here for a long time, and if that game is faltering, well, here we are. So this will also no doubt raise questions about Sony's management, as they bought Bungie's both for its game, which will remain multi-platform, however, and so Bungie could advise other studios on live service titles, being an expert in the space. But recent reports indicate that Sony may be scaling back its enormous live game ambitions from what they said previously. And we were supposedly hear that Bungie said that The Last of Us factions from Naughty Dog wasn't up to par, and the fate of that project now remains unclear. But the problem with these layoffs is, of course, is that not management who is out after making many of the decisions which led to this point, is the lower rung employees who have nothing to do with the situation. In any case, social/comms teams are already extremely underpaid and underappreciated in the industry. This is a story we've heard time and time amidst a host of industry layoff, and Bungie is the latest in a long line of studios where situations have unfolded. And that is the situation right here, is that Sony went through all this to get the studios for their expertise, and then now all of a sudden, due to their bad management, bad choices, now the company is getting hurt. And not only that, which we're going to dive into when it comes to Marathon, which is really, really crazy. It says amidst Bungie struggles, attention turns from Destiny 2 to Marathon. Now, from what we've understand and about this, is that most of the best developers in the team that they had from Destiny, they all moved them over to Marathon. So this may be the explanation to why Destiny 2 is in the state that they're in currently. And I think this is not just a Bungie problem. I think this was a decision by Sony, and this may have messed the company up in the long term. So in this article, it pretty much stated that in what may be the roughest week in Bungie's history, the company is reeling after layoff cuts 8% of the company, about 100 people, after previously promising that their acquisition by Sony would yield no such results. And look at it right now. The cuts were blamed in part of the current poor performance of Destiny 2, the sole game Bungie operates at the moment, as they attempt to branch out into different IPs and genre. There are two other games we know about at the moment. Marathon, a return to a classic IP for a new extraction-based shooter, and something codenamed Gummy Bears, some sort of lighthearted multiplayer game that I imagine could be something in the vein of Fall Guys, which is pretty interesting and something I never would hear that what Bungie would do. But it seemed like they don't want to put all their eggs in that Destiny basket and want to expand into other IPs. And there's nothing wrong with trying new IPs. That's how a studio can essentially, grow potential new franchises, for their studio. And in turns, that would definitely help Sony in the long run. But how they would manage it is a whole nother story. And the fact is that Destiny 2 is not doing too great. It's starting to create this shaky or this shaky type of environment to where now it's like if Destiny's falling apart, then what's going to happen to Marathon and also the code name Gummy Bears game that they're also working on. So the future is pretty much not looking too great for the company. But it's Marathon that the upcoming heavy hitter and the project that has taken so many of the Destiny and even Halo OGs away from the current Destiny 2 development. And it's a game that has hired many new roles to build up, and generally speaking, those do not seem to be teams that were hit hard by the recent layoffs, as Bungie needs all hands on deck for the new title. So to me, it just sounds like that all of the best of the best had moved over to Marathon, and then whatever I guess you could say the C-class developers were left on Destiny, and Destiny is now, you can tell that the quality or however the response is not doing too great, and this is what caused these massive layoffs. So yes, this is something that was a decision definitely made by Bungie, no, not Bungie, by Sony themselves. The reason being is that Bungie has a lot riding on Marathon. It's a significant investment of capital and talent, and it needs to find its space in a crowded multiplayer landscape. Standing out from the current top games, despite being a wholly different genre, it's not a battle royale like Fortnite, Warzone, or Apex. An idea that was briefly flirted with but didn't manifest. It's not CS2 or Valorant. The most mainstream extraction shooter is Tarkov. Now, this is where it gets interesting, but that's a pretty hardcore niche. Dr. Disrespect is building his vertical extraction shooter, Dead Drop, with partial use of blockchain and an oddly open development process. But it's a tiny team compared to the weight of Bungie behind something like Marathon. In effect, Marathon will only be a AAA extraction title on the market. So it's like pretty much going to be the only thing of its kind as far as AAA is concerned. The one thing that Marathon will obviously have going for it is Bungie's gunplay, which made Halo iconic and remains the single best thing about Destiny as a series. Combine that with Chris Barrett led insane art design for a beautiful, trippy aesthetic we've seen shown off its trailers. It's got good legs to get the thing running. However, there's a lot more considered. As part of this recent Bungie situation, Marathon has also been delayed to 2025. God damn, 2025. So if not that, it's not clear would it even be a full launch for Marathon yet, or some sort of alpha beta, as many multiplayer games tend to start with. Not that now that it matters. So there's been reports that essentially, from the YouTuber named Axicross, reported that a number of Tarkov players. Now, Tarkov players are pretty much Tarkov, I believe, is like an extraction type shooter, something similar that we're supposed to get from Marathon. And from the reports, it was saying that they had pretty much got some Tarkov players, big Tarkov players within that scene, and they have invited them down to actually test play it. So it says that Tim Henderson reported that he knew of people who had played the earlier versions of the game and were indeed impressed with his gameplay. But again, these were old tests, and the game is still miles away from release. So there's no way to actually judge whether it's good or bad, which is really like reasonable or whatever like that. So other questions about Marathon included monetization. I believe it's essentially a guarantee that it's definitely going to be launching as a big multiplayer, and it's definitely going to probably be free to play or whatever. So this is where we're going when it comes to these live service games. But how will Marathon be monetized? We definitely will have to wait and see when it comes to that. But there was talks that from the players who actually played it, and they were asked would they actually, like, if the game released, they asked the Tarkov players when the game releases, would they actually want to play? Would they actually go out and actually play the game? And a lot of them reported and said, from with the information that came out, they said no, they wouldn't play Marathon. So there's a lot of things that's going on within Bungie Studios, and the fact is that they took the team and moved them to Marathon, and then left the C team to pretty much work on and continue to support Destiny, has now caused massive layoffs. And this is a decision pretty much essentially, I guess you would say, been affected by Sony and their management. I don't know what's going on with Sony. I don't know what's going on with Microsoft, but a lot of things has been happening within these studios as of recently, especially after acquiring these studios. And like there's been so much shakeup. And what can we say about live service games? Like live service games, I didn't think was going to last this long. I thought it was eventually going to die out. But essentially, after seeing what's going on at the studios, especially at Bungie, and going on with Naughty Dogs when it comes to the Last of Us factions that they was trying to do, it looks like that this live service thing is starting to show its age, or is starting to show that there's problems in it, and we're starting to see problems as far as the quality, and it's getting oversaturated. How many live services can you have, and how many live services can you invest in, and is it worth your time and your effort to put quality time into these games? So I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the conversations below when it comes to Bungie, and then when it comes to the game Marathon and the handling of Destiny 2. And what do you think is going on with Sony when it comes to their business decisions as of recently? So if you like the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is Mugen Lord signing off. I'll see you game fiends later. Peace out.
YouTube.com/MugenLord. Subscribe to the channel for gaming news, updates, discussion, and live streams. Signing off.